Hello, 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 hello. It's good to see you. Say hello.
Welcome to the Huskies Hockey Podcast, your number one resource for all things Herbie Award season, conclusion, other adjectives. Coming up later in the show, it's going to be a fun event. I got my black tie, and I got a very special bottle of bourbon that I actually opened just for this occasion.
What's in the glass there? What are you wearing and what are you drinking?
I'm wearing from the Steve Harvey collection, actually. Is I don't know. I think he has a suit line. I think he always plugs his suit
Let's
on
go with it.
Family Feud. So but actually I just bought this bottle for this occasion. So that shows you how big it is. It is the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof A124 batch, which was just released here in January. So
very nice.
I was
high class.
Yeah,
you got to class it up for the Herbies.
Well, exactly, and I think that's what Herb Brooks would have liked. Don't know if he's a whiskey drinker, but I think he would have liked the class.
Right, so. And if we're working the red carpet, we should do this on location at the red carpet one of these years. Because we really don't have to stray that far for a St. Cloud-based podcast.
That's true.
We got a red carpet.
Yeah, we literally have the red carpet, and we could sit up there in the Martini Lounge and you know have a lot of fun.
Have a show. We could give like in-person Herbies because everyone would be there. So excited.
Yep, exactly. So, but I unfortunately didn't get a chance to get the C batch that was released in September of last year, which apparently everyone really loved. So, like I went to Total Wine down in this, I think outside in Woodbury when I was down there, and they were like, we didn't even get any in, much less have any for sale right now. So when I saw this, I was like, okay, I got to buy it. I got to jump at the opportunity of it. It's pretty smooth. I'm a big fan.
Well, that's good to hear. And
there hasn't been a barrel proof from Elijah Craig that I haven't liked though. So
I'm glad that you are classing it up.
That's what I do.
You're in the Steve Harvey. I'm in the Richard Karn line. He also Family Feud host. We mentioned that. It's like we're revisiting.
We're rehashing. That's when you know.
But yeah, Richard Karn has a line of tuxedos and menswear
and flannel.
So I got a Karn on me, and I'm enjoying a Two Hearted.
There we go.
So not quite to the barrel proof bourbon stage that Weldy's at, but
you'll get there.
Yep, we're having fun. The night is young.
Couple IPAs in, especially from Two Hearted, you'll be feeling it.
Oh yeah, so excited.
Let's kick off the show with the Frozen Four ended. Denver wins its 10th overall national championship. Again, rich get richer, and overall, as a St. Cloud State fan, I'm okay with it. It's not like there's going to be a lot of recruits really deciding between Denver and St. Cloud State. I feel like it's, what's that big of a difference between 9 and 10 titles for them? It's like, it'll.
There was only one Cole Gutman.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, you mentioned you were taking away Michigan's 7 of their 9 natties a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
Well, 5 of those 10 for Denver are in the Stone Age. So is this
10,
you got a but point. Really 5?
Yes. You know what? 5. I like it. It was just West Coast bias so much in those early years. So let's slash theirs in half too.
To make it fair,
how many does that mean for North Dakota?
It would get rid of a couple.
Get rid of a couple.
I think
get rid of a couple of theirs
maybe?
too.
2 or 3.
Well, 4. Let's get rid of 4.
And to be fair, if we're taking half of Denver's natties, they can take half of ours too.
There we go.
So
See,
we're keeping it fair.
We're keeping it fair for everyone.
So,
yep.
Yeah. What did you? I thought kind of a snoozer of a Frozen 4.
Like I mean, I was hyping up a goal fest. I was so excited for all of the games and all of the fireworks that were kind of going to happen, and it kind of fizzled out. It really didn't come to blows for that, especially the games Denver was in. Denver gives up 4 in the Frozen face-off against St. Cloud State, and then gives up 3
4 the rest of the way.
4 the rest of the way.
The Omaha title game and then the 4 games in the tournament.
So
pretty random. It's one of those. I'll tamp down the rant because I know people have heard it before, but the randomness of the tournament, and again, these were chalky teams, big blue blood programs. It's not like the 2009 Frozen 4 that we mentioned with 3 and 4 seeds abound and completely random. But the fact that Matt Davis can go from a sub-average season to just become the second coming of Terry Sawchuk, just by the flick of just snapping the fingers, and it's the Matt Davis show, is a little, I don't know, unsatisfying. But more so from what I can gather, this not just this year, this is going back at least a decade. I kind of blame Duluth for this.
It all comes back to blaming
really
Duluth.
But this implicit agreement between teams, especially in the title game, that it's the name of the game is you got to be timid. Everyone is timid. They're so afraid of making a mistake. Everyone's got to play a tight trap all of a sudden. We've seen this in the women's championship game the last 2 years, 1-0 games between 2 hyper offensive teams.
I mean,
with Wisconsin and Ohio State.
Ohio State WCHA title game. It was 6-3.
Right.
It was an open up game, but you get to this stage, everything kind of clamps down and becomes a little bit of a slog.
But I'm not really sure why that needs to be the case. There was a point in the game, I think when it was still scoreless, maybe early in the second, when Buchagras mentioned, well, with Denver and these 2 teams, you got to figure is going to be 2-1 or maybe even a 1-0 game. I was just like, why would you think that? These were literally the number 1 and number 2 top scoring teams in the country by a fairly wide margin, by a half goal separated them between everybody else. Why should we expect a kind of a 2-0 snoozer between 2 highly offensive skilled teams? But we saw with Denver the entire tournament for them. They were outshot in all 4 games. I thought pretty clearly outplayed in both of the overtime games that they won against UMass and BU, the semifinal in the Frozen 4. Thought they were fairly fortunate to get out of that game. And even, the Cornell game, they were down. They gave up the first goal there. It's a night and day difference between, stack up the Denver team we saw in the title game versus the Denver team. The first game in Denver this year was St. Cloud and them, where they scored the 5-goal period in the second period. Just looked like a locomotive that steamrolled the Huskies. Or the massacre at the Herb with Denver and St. Cloud. Like, this was a far cry from those teams. A lot of their, Zeve Williams scored in the title game. But, it was Tristan Brose that got those 2 overtime winners for them. Rizzo was healthy for the Frozen 4. He was obviously out for the regionals and a couple of months before that. But guys like Thompson, Matica, some kind of their usual suspects that really burned the Huskies this year. They're fairly quiet in the NCAAs. And it just seems like teams figure this is how you win in the Frozen 4. And so it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy that you've got to play a trap. Like we saw St. Cloud do this in 2021. That was a big part of their recipe. And it seems like, especially title games, We got a good one last year, but going back a decade, I'm struggling to think of, like, we're talking like with the Herbies coming up, moment of the year. Quick, off the cuff, name me a memory from the 2017 Frozen Four final, Denver and Duluth. Do you remember something from that game? Or how about Quinnipiac versus North Dakota, 2016? You remember anything about that game?
Yeah, I got really depressed and hammered because.
Aside,
and then I went back and watched. We beat North Dakota earlier that year, like 8-2 at home, 6-1 at home, and then I think I even logged off Twitter for like a week and a half straight, and then like people were putting an APB out on me, making sure I was okay.
That aside, though, do you remember anything from that game? Do you remember a goal?
No, not at all.
How about 2 years ago, the Denver and Mankato game? Do you remember anything from that game? Just trying to.
Didn't Mankato take a lead?
They had a 1-0 lead going into the third period, and then they imploded. That's kind of the thing where these teams are just waiting for the other team to make a first mistake. And then from that point on, the game can go a couple of different ways. Either the team that gives up the goal panics, and then they just get steamrolled. See St. Cloud against UMass. Be a good example of that. Or like Mankato against Denver. Once Denver tied the game, it was Denver's game to lose, and they won by 4, a couple of empty netters. But that's kind of one way you can put it. Like the Quinnipiac comeback against the Gophers last year was like the rarity where they decided but the Gophers were the team that kind of went into a shell and let Quinnipiac back in the game, which gave us a good game. But from what I can remember about some of these title games, a lot of them, at least in recent memory, it is just a timid approach of not wanting to make that first mistake. And as a result, the fans are kind of waiting for action. And a lot of times it doesn't even come. Like, it was 2-0 Denver, but just not a ton of intrigue during that game, and never seemed to fully kick into high gear. I had to go back and watch a little bit of their game between themselves in October. A night and day difference. That game was back and forth, lots of chances. The teams are playing loose and free. They're playing the style of hockey that they are familiar to play in playing. We just didn't see any of that, I thought, in this title game. And again, it's this, this is how you win in the playoffs. It's, again, I don't really know why that's the case. It's like, what about the 35 games you played prior to the tournament that got you into the tournament? Mm-hmm. Where in Denver's case, they were this offensive juggernaut with shaky defense and goaltending. But then they were able to turn it around and play the direct opposite style. And sure, they won, but I don't know. Like I said,
at what cost? I was bored.
Well, yeah, obviously there was bigger atrocities in the world to be offended by. But I'm a college hockey fan who co-hosts the College Hockey Podcast. If you don't want me to give you my actual analysis of what I thought of the game,
you're not wrong.
We don't got much of a show here, so yeah, not trying to be too much for curmudgeon, but we'd like to see some action in these games. And it seems, God, like Denver, they're really, I don't know if they're trying to do this, but they're really kind of assuming kind of a heel role.
Oh, 100%.
Not that they weren't in the past, but did I get this right? Was this some dumb rumor that they contracted with the Edina pep band?
That is not a rumor. That
is true.
Did actually happen, yes.
Again, did they have any self-awareness of how that comes off? But I mean, it fits perfectly like a glove. I mean, they are the Edina of college hockey in that way, and also the fact that they now have the most titles.
College hockey, or the
fact that they have the most titles.
Okay,
and that they're kind of cake eaters, and I mean, they're not. I guess Edina still is public school, but that's Edina doesn't charge $60K per semester. I guess that's
not yet.
That's a notable difference, but that was so that's a little off-put. And their fans too. It's like it's just an AI generated fan base. Those are all the section they had there they are paid plants. There's no way they actually are affiliated with Denver. They paid some locals to throw on. They gave them a Denver jersey to throw on.
Yeah, they paid a band.
Say,
why not some locals?
Here's who you cheer for. You cheer for the team in maroon. And so that's, again, just comes off as a little inauthentic. But congrats to them. Do you care? I'm sure there's people on Twitter puff their chest up about another NCHC championship.
Oh, yeah.
Which, I really couldn't care less about that aspect of it.
I think it was more so not necessarily the pride of the NCHC, of more so the dragging down of the Big Ten. I saw a lot more of like, another Big Ten year where another Big Ten team didn't win the title. Losers.
Which, sure. I mean, that was fun. That was more fun like 8 years ago when the Big Ten was still fairly new. It's kind of lost a bit of its luster, but I could see that still being effective for some folks.
I find it just kind of bizarre that it's the only sport that I know of that, like, you're proud that your conference foes do well. And I never really understood it. So
I know Gopher fans do that in football. They seem to, at least some of the Gopher football fans in my life, seem to think that it's nice that the Big Ten wins some sexy bowl games at the end of the year. But that might be just projection.
There sexy bowl games still? I thought like are you really impressed that you're winning the Quick Lane Bowl? Or
not the Quick Lane Bowl. That's the best bowl that the Gopher football team can make. But,
yeah,
like Michigan winning the national title. I bet you there's some Gopher fans that are not even that. I remember like when Iowa would play in the Peach Bowl or the Orange Bowl or whatever. That would be something. Well, gotta root for Iowa. It's like,
but they would still like draw a line. They were not going to like root for Wisconsin or Iowa, right?
I don't know. Like I feel like there's some that's
weird.
Well, we should just throw that out though, because the Gopher football fandom, that's like a dinosaur in and of itself. It can't be resurrected and it can't be replicated. So maybe that's not the best example.
You're not rowing the boat, huh?
No. I mean, I can see it from the perspective of rooting for the conference in non-conference regular season action has a benefit.
Well, yeah, I definitely
that jacks
get that
up
pairwise.
But when it's tournament time, like, there's no pairwise left. Like, I'm not. It doesn't make me any more proud to know that St. Cloud, well, we got our ass kicked 4 times by Denver this year, which means that they must be really good. I don't really care about that aspect of it. But you do you. If you're someone that took a sip of their brandy after the game and in satisfaction that you belong to the best conference, banners, then that's fine by me. I guess another thought I had was, how long do you think Carl's got left there? I might go out on a limb and say he's going to get hired by an NHL team this offseason.
This offseason? I hope so. I don't know about this offseason. I mean, I think we'll find out what type of exodus might happen in the national coaching landscape.
There'll be like 6 openings come next Monday or whenever the regular season ends, which is in a few days.
Yeah.
There's always 6 or 7 openings.
Maybe
let's say there were 7 openings, 6 of them will go to retreads.
Yeah. He'll be the one, and he'll start up in Salt Lake City.
Perhaps
maybe that's the case.
You got to figure. I mean, if the last coach Denver had, Montgomery, wins the national title there, then goes to the NHL, it's a pretty good success. A couple of different spots now, straddling the rehab stint. But I mean, he's doing really well with Boston now, and so now Carl takes over for Denver from Montgomery and wins 2 national titles, and he's got a World Junior gold. Young coach. I mean, sexy prospect from a coaching perspective. I would imagine the Columbus Blue Jackets, who's their coach, can see them being like, yeah, we'll go with this one. And they would probably go. Columbus would go the retread route, right?
Yeah.
They'd probably see if Ken Hitchcock is still available, something like that. But
Mike Keenan.
He is like the definition of retread coach, but yeah. So I mean, I'll stake my claim. I think there was a decent chance he's coached his last game at Denver, but we'll see too. Like I bet you Matt Davis is going to get thrown some money, and some team will probably regret it. But we'll see how much they lose. We saw this like with Duluth getting a lot of guys that probably shouldn't have made the NHL get NHL gigs because they had NCAA titles on their resume. We might see that with Denver guys maybe leaving a year earlier than expected because this sort of juices their cred, so to speak. But I wouldn't be opposed for Matt Davis coming back because although St. Cloud did have their struggles against him, which were kind of maddening at the time.
Yeah.
He's still a guy, like you mentioned, put up 4 goals on him twice this year. Huskies did, and seems like an eminently beatable goaltender. So I wouldn't mind if he comes back, but yeah, we'll see what the carnage is as far as like I would expect Zed Buium to be gone, seeing as he's likely going to be a top 10 pick. Just natural guys aging out. And
how many games did Burkle play in that?
It's actually a pretty good comparison because he kind of came out of nowhere that year too.
Yeah. Because that was after Dubowitz, right? Or was that?
Yes. Yeah, it was after. Because then the year after, they won a back-to-back. Burkle was in 2004, and then they had that Fisher-Menino split. We talked about that last year. Mm-hmm. Menino had all the starts in the tournament. I think that was the first time that they didn't do a goalie split.
Yep.
They might have even I think they actually did the split in the regional, but in Frozen Four, Menino got both the games. But yeah, Burkle's, he had the shutout in the title game against Maine.
1-0.
And there is a memorable moment from that because that was the game where Maine had a 6-on-3 at the end.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It was 5-on-3, and then they pulled their goalie. And it was for like over a minute too, but they weren't able to tie it up. But yeah, that's a good comparison because I mean, what did Adam Burkle do?
9.
No real
9 games. 9 in the 05-06 season in the NHL.
Really?
Yep.
Which team?
I'll give you one hint. It is a team that no longer exists in its current form.
The Thrashers?
That is correct.
I would never have guessed he made the NHL, but I bet the reason he did is because the Thrashers looked and be, oh, wow. 6-on-3. Sign him up.
Maine didn't even score. And then after that, Maine just went to hell. So like he essentially ended Maine for a while.
He broke Maine. Yeah, and it's not like
I mean that's not true. Maine made the tournament shortly after that, but still
not really. Well, they had the Ben Bishop.
Bishop, yeah.
They beat St. Cloud, but I think after that they only made the tournament once until this year. Kind of did go into a bit of a lull of a program, but yeah, so I'm wondering if Burkle left early too, because Dubowitz wouldn't have been too much before. Like I'm thinking Dubowitz like 02, 03 in that era. So I can't imagine Burkle played a ton of like action as the main starter for Denver, other than that 04 year, which was kind of an out of nowhere title for Denver. I think that was the year that they didn't even make the Frozen face-off, or the Final Five, I should say. I think they lost in the quarters that year, so they didn't really have a ton of expectations in that NCAA's for that year. But
yeah, they lost to Colorado College.
Yeah,
and
so yeah,
that Colorado College, Sterling, Stewart, Joey Crabb, Marty Surdich,
Sania would have been before this.
Yeah, Sania was just before
this.
This
is like the era where CC was kind of Hobie.
Oh God, yeah.
good squad. But all right, we're in the weeds now. Yeah, Burkle is the last generation's Matt Davis.
To anybody who has been a Huskies hockey podcast for less than 15 years, we can come back to this portion of the show, and we apologize for the last 10 minutes.
We go off on tangents, and
this is what we do. We got a bunch of old timers.
In my day, we take those detours.
I always thought Dubowitz was way better, and he never won.
Well, it was Menino, right?
Manning.
Well, right. Back to the show. Congrats to the Pioneers. You earned it. You deserved it. I love those underdogs winning.
So we'll get back on track here. So, but I mean, I will say credit to Matt Davis for that third period. A little bit of luck, a little bit of horseshoe, but at the same time, kept it out. I think BC had 12 shots on goal the first two periods, something like that, something incredibly third. Yeah. And then you knew that BC finally was going to wake up and try to force something, and in the end, Denver was able to kind of stand tall. They win. And now off season is kicking up, and Huskies have been busy in the portal since we last left. Got a couple of new recruits that are coming in. First, Damon Gardner, War Road grad, who played the first season at help me out here. Clarkson, right? For some reason, I thought St. Lawrence, but no, Clarkson. St. Lawrence,
the other one, right up there.
Bassey went to St. Lawrence.
Correct.
Clarkson, I don't know. Are they big rivals? Would they be really ticked that I confused the two?
Probably, yeah. They're their big rival. They're like 10 miles apart up in northern New York. So, yeah, they wouldn't be offended at all.
So obviously, taking forward, coming in, Ben Storm 2.0 is kind of what I have. A little bit of a disappointing year when it comes from a points aspect, but he is a very big forward, plays both wing and center, so he'll fill a need of some size and some physicality up, I would imagine, there on the front line. I don't know a lot about him other than that, but he'll be coming in next year, and he'll have 3 years of eligibility.
Yeah, fairly. I mean, he's just turned 20, so coming in as a 19-year-old. I mean, NCHC is an older league. ECAC, kind of a little even older league, and so perhaps was a little bit of an adjustment for him. First year in NCAA, as you mentioned, just 6 points with 1 goal, but fairly prolific scorer. I mean, his 1 year at Warroad, Canadian kid originally, but played a year at Warroad and put up 83 points.
Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here, Warroad, right? Just business as usual.
They are a recruiting machine. They throw a wide net out there, but great year for them. Good year at Tri-City. You would have been coached by that Noreen, who was just hired by Miami. So got some familiarity with one of the coaches in the conference at least. But put up a almost point per game pace in his 1 full season in the USHL last season. This might be a player that could have probably benefited from a second year of USHL, but a drafted player we should mention as well. 4th round, huge kid, as you mentioned, 6'5", and from what I gather, more of a trained center position, centerman. Now, I don't know how Clarkson was using him, but I don't think that we have the scramble for centers that we did last year. especially with like the emergence of guys like Gross coming back for next year. But it's certainly a position that I think St. Cloud could certainly use someone there. And a guy that's got that kind of size, it's hard to kind of imagine a 6'5" center. But feel like he's got the skill. Yeah, when I first heard about it, saw the point line for Clarkson's, kind of disappointed, then saw more of the backstory, got more excited. I think he's going to benefit from being a little closer to home. This league is probably a better fit for him. And I think 1 year under the belt is going to do him wonders. I'm fairly high on him. I only sort of, I'm thinking, God, it's size and skill. And then you brought up Ben Storm, who, like Gardner, was also a drafted player and also tall. But Benny didn't have the jets, let's say. And couldn't quite find a solid role. His issue, I think Botsko and him maybe didn't see eye to eye in playing in defense and forward, mishmash between the two of them. Not the best college career for Ben, and I'm not hoping the same, obviously, for Damon Gardner, but just looking at the raw numbers and the size and the specs, we shouldn't just it's still a work in progress, but I'm intrigued by this one in a good sense. I think he's going to be a good addition.
Yeah. And you know, when I say that with Ben Storm, you know, Ben Storm originally came in as the defenseman. And then, trying to find a place to fit him, you know, having somebody who at least came through with a scoring touch, the whole time. The only, I kind of worry because you see these incredibly tall forwards kind of come up and through, and I just get a little bit nervous that, you know, they were drafted highly. You know, they look at something like size and think, oh yeah, that's going to be an NHL player. And then I don't know a ton about his, you know, youth hockey or how he played in War Road. But I mean, if he was 6'3" when he played in War Road, you know, he's definitely going to, you know, use his way to his advantage and really elevate some of his points. Now, I thought that was going to be the case with Blake Wheeler as well when he came up through Breck. And I thought, like, well, yeah, and he chose to play at that time. Breck was Class A. He chose to play a lesser level of hockey to really pad his point total and what was taken 5th overall by Phoenix, I think. And sure enough, Blake Wheeler ended up having a great college career, great NHL career. So, you know, and so it's just kind of that little teeter-totter I'm kind of doing in my head of where this gets to me as an excited scale. What I find really interesting is that, you know, him coming back in, like you said, 6'5", Brnovic, I think, is listed at 6'4". So we're definitely going a little bit more size when a lot of it was speed was a big priority when it comes to like the Frozen Four. This last one with all 4 teams being incredibly quick like that. So I don't think we're going to sacrifice too much of the speed with the size that we're bringing in, but you know, usually you do have that type of a trade-off. So it's going to be, I'm intrigued by this. I'm a little, you know, I'm seeing what kind of a fit. I'm excited to see what kind of fit that he has, you know, and how he's going to kind of play into the mold of, you know, kind of a Brett Larson style, but it's going to be kind of intriguing. And, you know, at first I was kind of ho-hum, but I was like, you know, he definitely has an ability to score, and, you know, we've got a player's coach in Brett Larson. And I think I'm interested to see what kind of fit that he's going to have here this next season.
Yeah, I think we've done a good job of setting the extremes here of expectations. We've got Blake Wheeler and Ben Storm. And somewhere in between.
You come to this podcast being like, you want hard-hitting analysis, and I say he could be anywhere in between Blake Wheeler and Ben Storm. Somewhere in there.
Somewhere in.
Prove me wrong. I bet he will be somewhere between those two.
And yeah, I wonder. I'm intrigued what position he lands at. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Ingram, where he was also kind of billed as a center, but hasn't really worked out there in the times that St. Cloud's tried him there. He's been a better fit at the wing. Is that going to be a case as well? How good is he at faceoffs? What is his physical presence? Size is one thing. Size doesn't necessarily mean physicality. So
Philippe Kuba was tall.
Yes, he was. Adam Ingram's tall.
And again, everybody 15 years a hockey fan is like, who the heck is Philippe Kuba?
Original Wild.
Yep.
Right? Was he on the first team? I think so.
And an all-star.
Was he?
For
the Wild?
For the
Was
Wild.
that did the NHL have the MLB rule where everyone had to have a representative?
I think so, yeah.
Because that'd probably be the only reason that he'd be on an all-star game.
Yep.
Roster. But who else is on that first team? Brad Bombardier, remember him?
Brad Bombardier, Darby Hendrickson, obviously Gaborik, Scott Pellerin,
Hobie
Jamie
Baker,
McLennan,
Manny Fernandez.
Can
we do the whole team here off the cuff?
Nope. Maxime Shushinsky.
Ooh, good. Lubomir Sakarash.
Oh, Sakarash.
Sucker and Succotash. Anti-Laxanen.
Yep, Laxanen.
Played at Denver. My dad always called him Anti-Laxative, which was always fun.
That tracks.
Was Rollison? No, Rollison would have been.
No, Rollison was later.
Second year. What was his? Willie Mitchell. Did you say him?
Oh, I did not say Willie Mitchell.
Was it Sean O'Donnell or McDonald? He was the first
O'Donnell.
captain.
Sean O'Donnell.
Wes Walls. Stacy Roos. Aaron Gavey. Jeff Nielsen. I think we can get all of them here.
I don't know if we can.
We've gotten like 75% of them.
I mean, that's
just
true.
In this little bit here.
Sergei
Krivokrasov. I remember being excited about him. He was kind of a dud, as it turned out.
Yeah, it worked by Krivokrasov. That's what I used to.
Well, you got Maxime Shushinsky, who scored like 6 goals in a month, and then I think he went back to Europe.
Then he went back to Russia.
He was like their star player for a month, and then and then he bolted.
And then he bolted. So that's why I remember him so much, is that he was just the star player for a little bit and then just left.
Remember the first time that they played the Stars?
Jim Dowd.
Jim Dowd.
There we go.
The first time they played the Stars, and they beat them like 6-0.
6-0. Yep.
Then you remember when they played the Penguins, and Lemieux was just up in arms about the clutching and grabbing.
Yep.
He thought it was an offensive part of the sport to have all this Jacques Lemaire clutching and grabbing. And I think the Wild beat him, and he did not like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a rough team, but I remember watching every single one of those games.
Oh, yeah.
And they were a painful team to watch at times.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
All right, again, in the ditch. Remember when we said
we did a lot better than I thought we would. Do
you have the roster? Because I can't imagine we missed too many of them. But
no,
you can go on Hockey Reference and see how we did if we missed any obvious ones. Now, I'm not saying to you. I'm saying to the
too late.
Hypothetical listener.
Too late. I'm already there. God, yeah, we did really well. Look at that. We missed. You said Jeff Nielsen, right?
Yep.
Cam Stewart.
That did not ring a bell.
Yep. I forgot Cam Stewart. Willie Mitchell. Mitchell only played 17 games, and you pulled that one off.
I think he came up late in the year.
Andy Sutton.
Oh, what did Matt Johnson? Was Matt Johnson on that team?
Yes. Yep. He was our fighter.
Yeah, he was the fighter. Or they had this Sylvain Blouin. I don't know if he was in the first year.
Yep. 41.
He was another goon.
Curtis Lecision.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Lecision was one that we missed. JJ Jangdano. That was only one game. Travis Roach.
Oh, yeah. He played at North Dakota.
Former North Dakota.
Yep. He was a North Dakota Star. And I remember when they signed him, that would have been the North Dakota. Either they went to the title game or they won it in 01. They played BC back-to-back years in the title game, and each of them won one title. But it would have been right on the heels of that. So he would probably played the last game of the year because it was a late season signing. But I remember that for some stupid reason.
Yeah, I think it was. I think they won the title because the next year was the start of the Gophers back-to-back. Oh, no, they won in 03 and 04.
No, Gophers were 02 and 03.
Were they 02 and 03? Okay,
so
I
think Dakota. No, I think Dakota won in 2000, and then BC beat him in 01.
Oh, that okay.
But they played each other back-to-back years in the title game.
Gotcha.
I think that was the order. It could have been flip-flop, but I think BC won in 01. We warned you about going back into 25 years in time, random sidetracking. But
so anyway, the infamous fish story.
So I feel like we're going to get more out of that sounder by the end of this show.
I think so too. So Damon Gardner coming in. We also have our goalies all situated. Well, we actually have a pair of Northern Michigan Wildcats. Charlie Glockner comes in from, I think, the purifying waters of Lake Minnetonka.
Yeah, I believe Litke played with him at Minnetonka.
So
I think he was on that championship team.
I think so too. So it's
all familiar with some of the players already.
Posh, Gray, and Glockner is going to be our three goalies coming in.
That sounds like a law firm. I don't know what the depth chart. I mean, we kind of figure Posh is going to be at the top of that to start the year, but in terms of battling for number 2, because I don't think Posh is going to be, 90% starter. You're going to have some action from non-Posh goaltenders. I don't know if that's going to be more of a 3-way situation or if either Gray or Glockner, one of those two emerges as kind of what the Posh turned into this year. Kind of like first out of the gate, first backup, but then, we don't want Posh to lose his job like Bassey did this year, but as it turned out, like, you just got to find out who's number 2 on the depth chart. Glockner's got some experience in that for Northern Michigan. Again, numbers not great, but small sample size as well. Never was the main starter up there. We've mentioned the kind of mass exodus out of Marquette. 13 guys in the transfer portal. A lot of that is due to the fact they've got a huge and pretty acclaimed freshman class coming in this coming year. So just numbers dictated that guys needed to find other programs. And Glockner finds a home here with St. Cloud. Again, I don't think he's going to be a Nate Hardy type where we're just never going to hear from him as a third goalie. I think he's going to get a look or two. I'm not going to throw us into the ditch here of throwing out random third goalies in St. Cloud history. Because I don't know if I could do too well.
I just thought of Ethan Lyerly.
See, that's not even, I don't know what that means.
Third string goalie in the when I went to college.
It was that one year that you were there before me. It must have been that year because that name does not ring a bell. But we shall see what his contributions would be. But happy to see him in the fold. I've got a zinger for you.
Oh, do you now?
Yeah. This is funny. This is you're gonna really laugh.
Let's go. What's the zinger?
Josh.
I see what you did there.
Josh Zinger. That's Zinger with the Z. And he's also coming with Glockner from Marquette. And this one's pretty intriguing. This seems brand new. Like, it's not even up on the Rink Live yet. But you got the hot off the presses tweet.
Off the presses, Mick Hatton confirmed by Sydney Wolf, and that's all I need. Really, is actually the Wolf of approval. So,
well, we've got a guy with 20 points on the year. Put up a 20-point year this year for Northern. Put up 16 points last year for Northern as well.
They're high scoring defenseman.
Regular on the power play, it looks like, for the Wildcats. in a substandard league, ring a bell? Because that's kind of what we did with Anhorn, coming from the ECAC. If we could get something like Anhorn in Josh Zinger, it would not be funny. It would be great. Again, let's temper our expectations a little bit. I'll speak for myself, I suppose. I mean,
he could be anywhere in between Phil Housley,
Phil Housley, and Oliver Lordson. Somewhere in there, in those two goalposts.
That was actually a very bad example because Phil Housley did not play college hockey.
No, but he's a really good defenseman.
But he was really good offensive defenseman.
He's a good defenseman. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like he was really known for his defensive anything.
Well, I mean, look at where it got Denver this year. I mean, that was an offensive defensive core. Sometimes
it got him to a shutout in the title game.
That's right. So yeah, I'm excited for this Josh Zinger acquisition. I'm wondering if, we were kind of mentioning offensive defensemen's kind of on the wish list in terms of needs for next year. I would imagine this kind of satisfies that need. I would be surprised if they were to get another one of these guys, although I wouldn't really complain about it too much either. If this is what we have to fill that need, I think he could have done much worse. So excited to see what he brings to the table as well.
So that confirms, obviously, Anhorn and Peart gone. And then Thor Bufflin,
Anhorn,
and Josh Zinger coming in. So our defense, what it looks like to me, it looks like our defense is set.
Barring any further movement.
Yep.
But yeah, that means, Litke's returning, Falk, Wiley, Clark, Ewert. We still got Caleb Thiessen in the mix. So interesting if they do, as you mentioned, Bufflin likely coming in. So numbers wise, you're probably set in terms of if you want to upgrade further. Possibility, I suppose, but I wouldn't bet on it. What are we looking at for Zinger's size? Just kind of looking at a stat line, but I don't have
5'11",
like a height and weight. Okay, so
185,
a little on the smaller side, but that's not tiny. And Canadian,
average
Canadian as well. We're bringing in the Canucks. With the transfer portal this year, other than Glockner, who's a Minnesota kid, but AJHL veteran, did his juniors up there. I wonder if Shayak had any hand in this. It's kind of his recruiting hotbed. And so Shayak also with his Northern Michigan ties, being a player there, perhaps he had a hand in both this and Glockner coming in. So excited to see what he's got on the table. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him on a power play unit.
Yeah,
coming up, because he's got experience doing that at Northern, and those guys are always good to have. So, of the three, which one are you most intrigued with, or maybe there was two different questions there: most intrigued, or you feel is the best acquisition? And obviously, I think Glockner, third goalie, is pretty much between Zinger or Gardner, which I think it's a decent kind of question between which of those two kind of excites you the most.
I think Zinger excites me a little bit more, and maybe that's because it's a little bit fresher. I mean, it just dropped a few hours before the podcast. Gardner, my initial reaction, obviously just looking at the stat line, I don't know a lot of his play. I was a little bit mixed on, but so reading his quotes though, about coming here and basically how he's like, yeah, this season did not go how I thought it would. Like he knows that things kind of need to change and what he needs to do. So Gardner kind of excites me in that way. I think just Zinger, him having a little bit more experience, he'll come with 2 years of eligibility left. in a position of need where he can make maybe a little bit more of an impact. Gardner might be third, fourth line. So Zinger getting probably at least power play 2 time excites me a little bit more.
I would tend to agree, although I do think Gardner might be a little under the radar just based on his first year. Yeah, I would expect him to start the season in those bottom 6, in a bottom 6 role, but guys can move up the chain.
Oh, yeah.
Larson's a guy that we've seen is very apt in shuffling lines up and moving guys up in the depth chart. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to play himself into a bigger role for the team. But excited about all 3, but I think I would agree the Zinger, it's just got a little zing to it.
A little zing.
And excited to see.
We're going to have a lot of fun with that over the next year.
I don't know if we've just exhausted all of the potential bits just now. We may have.
Maybe.
But we're not against beating a dead horse. So who knows? Maybe we'll get a sounder out of that. We should hope that Zinger plays himself into sounder
territory.
Because that would mean he's doing something good.
I don't know of a higher honor.
No.
So
other than a Herbie.
But I mean, that's a given. So.
One could argue that a sounder is a bigger honor than a Herbie. I don't want to crap on our made up award too much, but you hear the Sounders, like you go out of your way to play the Wisconsin Rule Sounder like in July, just because you haven't heard in a while. So there's that.
I mean,
the Herbies, it's like we don't even remember who won last year's Herbies.
And the more go Packers. That was just art. I mean, hanging in the Louvre. I don't know if they have audio in the Louvre, but that's where it belongs. Is there a special audio wing?
I don't know. One of our listeners is sort of horning himself into the Sounder game. Because
that's true.
I was ready to produce a Sounder for the new goalie award that we've got this year, but you told me your services are not needed.
Yeah,
because it's already been taken care of.
It's already been. I
don't know if this is our giant segue into
the
main show.
Yeah,
unless you got anything else.
The only thing I was going to say, by the time we have our next show, conference schedule will be released. It looks like that's going to be released next week. So,
yeah, we're thinking about maybe a month off. Thinking like third week in May, which by that time I'm just looking at like last year's timeline. The full schedule for St. Cloud was released in early May. So by the next show, we'll definitely have the conference schedule out. We might have the whole thing out. So that'll be nice to be able to be nice for me because I'm going to be booking some flights here, or at least looking at potential travel but I can't really do that until I see some dates. So I'm excited to see that. And we'll be able to discuss that. Hopefully by the time, if we're thinking like May 20th for our next recording, that'll be after the deadline has passed to get into the portal. So we'll at least know of all the portal entrants. There'll still be some action in terms of finding landing spots.
There'll still be some hot portal action.
But maybe in a month, we've got some more St. Cloud movement in the portal, not only from the men's side, but the women's side. And hopefully we got some schedules. I mean, women's schedule you'd feel would be released earlier because they start the season a couple of weeks earlier. I'd like to see that schedule released as well. So we're shifting into monthly episodes for the summer, which is a tradition here. But that doesn't mean that the shows won't be full of goodness. And so expect that. We'll have plenty to talk about and keep you apprised in terms of how the roster is developing and how next year is looking. Plus, we'll be able to kind of talk about some bigger picture topics that we don't really have time for during the regular season. I want to touch on the coaching moves that have been going on, which I haven't really discussed other than like the Noreen hire at Miami. I thought some intriguing movement with some of the other coaching vacancies, and we can touch on that as well. But so it's going to be a bit until you hear from us again, but save us or follow us on their favorite podcast feed. And be sure to stay tuned because it'll be a while, but we won't be. It won't be too long without us. You'll start to miss us. So we'll be back, but it will be a few weeks here.
Exactly. And with that, let's go ahead and kick off the Herbies.
The stars shine tonight over St. Cloud. It's time again for the annual Herbie Awards, presented by the Huskies Hockey Podcast, honoring the very best in St. Cloud State Huskies hockey. Now, here are your hosts, Weldy and Andrew.
Welcome to the Herbie Awards, everybody. And this Herbies is sponsored by Manny's Manual Meats.
It is. We've got a new sponsor. Always happy to get some new sponsors here for the show. Yeah, and this one actually was a weird because we had talked about a different, let's call it company that this current sponsor happens to be a competitor of, and says, you know what, we want to voice our support and lend that support in terms of giving you a read and giving you some money. So we're very happy to get a new sponsor here. The Herbies tonight are brought to you in part by Manny's Manual Meats. Manny's Manual Meats is Central Minnesota's newest state-of-the-art butchery. Here at Manny's, we don't just offer the best meats. We believe that the best meat is the meat that the consumer has a personal connection to. That's why when you come into Manny's, we greet you with a smile and an apron. Here at Manny's, we take our DIY ethics seriously. The enjoyment of any life experience, including your Sunday dinner, is enhanced when you have a role in its creation. That's why we hand over the bone saw and let you cut your own meat. Under the supervision of a factory-trained meat packer, you'll be able to gain the chops to a meaningful butchery experience. Raise the stakes for your meat-eating family and friends by actively participating in the processing of a commercial-grade carcass. Make no bones about it, literally, by slicing your way to tenderloin and porterhouse goodness, the manual way. Manny's Manual Meats was conceived of as a challenge. When people said, you can't innovate at a butcher shop, we said, cut it out! And we mean it! Stop by today at our brand new location in St. Augusta on County Road 136 and 44th Avenue. Mention this ad and get a free blade sharpening at your next visit. MMM stands for Manny's Manual Meats, and it also stands for Mmm.
You know, I heard that place that opened up, so I was really excited about it. Do you know if you have to bring your own cutlery, or do they have that provided for you?
That's all provided, again, under the supervision of a factory-trained meat packer. So they've got all the equipment there. You will have to pay for maintenance of those tools, as mentioned, but you do get that free blade sharpening.
Yep.
If you do mention the ad. So
perfect.
Stop by, and happy to have Manny's aboard.
All right. Thank you so much, Manny's. We'll go ahead and kick it off. Let's go ahead and first start off with
The Aaron Brocklehorst Goal of the Year.
All right. Goal of the Year nominees were Avery Myers, Joe Molinar, Emma Gentry, and Werner Miettinen, LOL. This one, the fan vote, was incredibly tight, and it actually ended up in a tie. 30% both ways went to Avery Myers and Werner Miettinen. Both getting 30%. So the joke goal that was not called a goal on the ice gets 30% for Goal of the Year. How poetic, I guess. I don't know any other way to describe it.
Awesome, I think would be one way to put it. I was happy to give that as a nomination. I'm happier to know that it kind of took off to the extent of 15 people voted for it, but For us, that's good. So, but this was a tight race.
It was. Yep, very much so.
I don't know if we did he do a drum roll sounder? I don't know.
I mean, I bet I can find one.
I thought I had one for last year, but I
drum
can't
roll.
remember now. Yeah.
The winner is Avery Myers, and ends up taking it. So congratulations to Avery Myers, who actually follows me on Twitter. So,
she can submit her acceptance speech.
Yep, exactly.
Directly to your inbox.
I actually expect her acceptance speech to be in a TikTok. So
if that happens,
maybe I should put this clip on TikTok and then she can stitch a victory speech afterwards. So I think we can make something work there. I'm way too old to do any of that, so that will not be happening. But yes, so Avery Myers, since that was a tie, I voted Avery Myers as goal of the year. And it was a toss up between me and Joel Molinar. Mainly, I think 5-hole is just a little sexier than going top shelf.
Really? Because that's where I actually went Molinar. Because they were actually very similar goals. Because they both undress one defender. And then it really comes down to the one difference. I mean, Myers, it happened. She got the puck a little bit further in the zone so she kind of takes it from the blue line in.
Yep.
Whereas Molinar, that play kind of developed like right in the slot. And then he undresses the Miami guy and roofs it. So the deciding factor is the shot was a little sexier from Molinar. Interesting. But they were very close, 1-2. I can see your thought process here too. You just like the 5-hole a little bit better in terms of the finishing off. So I can definitely see it that way. But they were definitely my 1-2.
Yep. And with that, I mean, Werner and Avery both had 30%. Joe Molinar had 27% of the vote. So, I mean, all three of those were incredibly close. Emma Gentry, 13%, which isn't fair because picking the puck out of midair like that and then just shooting it from there too, like before the goalie can get set. And instead of trying to go in and make a move, I thought also took a lot of awareness for Emma to do that.
They were all great goals. So, I mean, they're nominees for a reason.
Nominees. So Aaron Brocklehorst goal of the year. Congratulations to Avery Myers. So next award, here we go.
The Chuck Clausen Moment of the Year.
Chuck Clausen Moment of the Year.
Is that an authentic Chuck woo?
No, I think that is an authentic Ric Flair woo.
And the fact that I don't know, that's the biggest honor that Chuck Clausen can get. If he is essentially Ric Flair.
Essentially, if you flip a coin,
indistinguishable.
You don't know which one is which, then I think, that's...
Which, was there really that much of a difference between those two gentlemen?
No, I don't
Ric
think
Flair
so.
and Chuck Clausen, they're
both high profile and
sexy.
Rolex wearing,
feather boa wearing.
I forgot the Ric Flair like styling, profiling, limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun. That's it. Having a hard time keeping these alligators down. And the moment of the year nominees: the fire alarm game ops music for playing Ring of Fire and all the fire alarms. We didn't start the fire. Women's win at Ohio State, number 1 in the nation. The women go into Columbus and beat Ohio State for a massive victory. Kupka's game-time goal against Michigan, Frozen 4 team, and that Andrew and I were both in the building for. And the women versus the Gophers ending for just kind of how that ended with Himlarova taking a cheap shot into the corner, and then an answer from Cece Bowlby taking off Abby Murphy's head, pretty much, is kind of how that ended. And the winner of the Chuck Clausen Moment of the Year goes to Kyler Kupka's game-tying goal late in the game. Oh,
Yay.
I forgot the drum roll.
Oh, we can edit that in. The magic of editing. You can
editing.
Edit that in, or not. But
I'll fix it in post. Maybe not. So this one, actually, I was the defactor on this one. I was going with the women's win at Ohio State. But Andrew and the fans, again, this was another close one. Fans, 35% picked Kupka, 32% women's win against Ohio State, and then 29% the fire alarm. So it was
and I mentioned to you, I don't know if it's fair that the deciding, because it was between the two, that the Kupka goal and the Ohio State win. But the decider for me was the fact that I was in the building for the Kupka goal next to you.
It was quite the moment.
It was very touching. Mm-hmm. And whereas I watched the St. Cloud game, how many thousands of miles away on TV,
on probably one of the worst feeds in college hockey.
The feed quality's not terrible. It's just you got like the netting that's there.
You got the netting and just everything is awkward. Like you don't have the best viewpoints. Yeah, the quality's all right, but like it's got this kind of fisheye type look to it.
It's kind of similar to St. Thomas. Yeah. Going to St. Thomas, like, because there's just no fans on the side of the rink that the camera's pointed to. It is kind of a weird setup, and it, maybe not the most intriguing production value, but I don't know if that's fair to have that be sort of the deciding factor between going Kupka over, the women's victory over Ohio State, which is more impactful than the St. Cloud tie against Michigan. But just the fact that if the category is talking about memorability, I suppose I'll probably remember the Kupka goal a little bit longer just because I have an in-person experience of that, which these days is not as common as it once was. So factor that in if you want to rake me over the coals for that, then you know who to blame. But it was a close call. They're both worthy candidates and good nominees all around for this category, but this one narrowly squeaks out to Kyler Kupka in that tying goal. And it was a fun moment.
I just thought Ohio State, they were 11-1 going in on an 11-game winning streak. 2-1, Ahola playing incredibly well. You had 2 power play goals from Bowlby and Henderson there in the second, and able to hang on for the third.
Really the Ahola show.
Yeah.
In that game. I think that's they only lost 4 games. Ohio State did. So this would have been their only home loss. So you can put that on the resume for the St. Cloud women's season this year. Did something that nobody else could do this season. So yeah, definitely up there. And I think we even mentioned it like around the time, like perhaps the biggest win in women's program history. And factor that into that. That's not a separate Herbie category, but it's like an all-time. That's like an honorary. It's like the Gene Hersholt honorary award at the Oscars. This could be like a lifetime achievement award for best win in program history because it's up there.
Well, very much so. Next one.
The Andreas Nodal Rookie of the Year.
Andreas Nodal Rookie of the Year nominees are Werner Miettinen, Tyson Gross, Elise Soriel, and Isaac Posh. Fans went with, and see, now I don't remember how I did this. So do I do fans? Do I just do a drum roll?
Yeah, we don't necessarily need to tell them the vote. I'm not opposed to it, but it's
I like transparency.
Well, it's not like transparency is what built the Herbies. So
that's fair. That's fair. And it the Herbie Tyson Gross by unanimous decision. So congratulations, Tyson Gross. 60% of the fan vote as well. For me, yeah, it was between Gross and Miettinen. Gross, I think maybe a little bit of recency bias since he came on so strong towards the end of the year. Werner was solid all year, and I gave him pretty much the highest praise by calling him a Patrick Newell type. So I'm really excited to see how both of their careers can impress, but it was really fun to see like something clicked for Tyson Gross.
Yeah.
And to see him kind of come on, and the fans kind of felt that way too, with them being, kind of taking that vote and giving it to Tyson as well.
Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, did you say Posh had a fair amount of the fan vote as well?
13%. So
okay,
not massive.
Maybe it was the goalie of the year, I think, because he was also not like for that.
Spoilers.
I suppose. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Maybe, I mean, the fact that, Miettinen probably had a fuller season, more consistent from start to finish. But you got to remember, like, through October and November, Gross has scratched a fair amount. Like, he didn't really crack the lineup on a regular basis until, November, December, something like that. More scratches than Miettinen, for sure, than Werner this year. But towards the end of the season, he might have been like your number one starter or number one center on the depth chart. And I feel pretty confident in him going forward in terms of not just like face-off specialist. He plays a full game and able to produce some points, especially in the second half when things were going poorly for the team. I remember you had several player of the weekends for Gross in that second half. The results for the team weren't great during this stretch, but Gross was standing out as being one of the best players during that stretch. So with him going forward, year under his belt, and how much he grew in his first year, I'm really excited to see him further develop here in his sophomore year.
Couldn't have said it any better. So, all right, here we are for the next category.
The Drew LeBlanc Forward of the Year.
Drew LeBlanc Forward of the Year nominees were VT Miettinen, Emma Gentry, Kyler Kupka, and Katie Kaufman. And the Herbie goes to VT Miettinen with 59% of the fan vote. So congratulations, VT, for being getting the Herbie for Forward of the Year. Yeah, I just felt anytime we needed a goal, or like he was just kind of the most consistent guy to kind of come up and get a goal in big moments. And I thought he was kind of a difference maker, when he was on and was playing well. So that's kind of why I gave it to VT as the Forward of the Year.
I was torn between VT and Kupka. I actually didn't even submit a vote because, as it turned out, Weldy voted for Miettinen and the fans did. So whatever I said, I could have voted for Fred Knipschier, and it still would have gone to VT.
There we go, back to 20 years ago.
That was like 40 years ago. But so in between, I've mentioned how much I like Kupka, especially as a player type, physical, corner battle kind of guy, gritty. We'll get to gritty in a little bit. But whereas Miettinen's a little flashier and maybe a little less well-rounded. I think I agree with this though. Like between Kupka and Miettinen, if it's just between those two, I might go Kupka for like MVP because I feel like his overall contributions are a little bit more valuable. But from a pure forward standpoint, I think VT's got the slight edge here. So I'll make it, because I didn't officially submit a vote. I'll I'll make it a full clean sweep, and I'll agree here. But again, another category here where the nominees were top to bottom, a good set of 4, and happy to award Vidi a Herbie on his way out for a career well played.
Well played, and congratulations, and good luck on your future endeavors. Here's a Herbie for the road. So.
Have we heard anything about Gentry coming back, by the way?
I don't think we have.
Because Kaufman's gone. She's a grad student. Kupka's he's in the ECHL?
Yes.
Now? We still don't know where Vidi's going, but he's gone. We just know he's not going to play for St. Cloud. So yeah, of these forwards, Gentry's the only one that might come back, and this is would be for a 5th year, which isn't like a given. But yeah, I'd like to, maybe by the next show we'll have some updates in terms of where what Gentry's doing and where Vidi ended up, because I'm kind of curious about that.
All right. And while you mentioned a sponsor, we can take a quick commercial break, and we'll go ahead and we'll be back right after these messages.
The Herbies are brought to you in part by Gritty St. Cloud. You know Gritty St. Cloud as the premier van tour in the St. Cloud area. We take our passengers on an adventure throughout Greater St. Cloud, ignoring the boring, beautiful spots and focusing instead on the grease, grime, and grit that truly embodies St. Cloud. Beep, beep, new route alert. You won't want to pass up the opportunity to take in the brand new South St. Cloud tour. This route is focused on the industrial park in and around Opportunity Drive. What 2 words in the English language say gritty more than freight trucking? Disagree? Well, how about bus manufacturing? Or perhaps grocery wholesaling? Still on the fence? Well, I'll just remind you that fence that you're sitting on was built by a construction company. Another 2-word beauty that practically oozes gritty. These are just a few of the hidden treasures you've driven past 1,000 times before on I-94. Now you won't just whiz by Opportunity Drive. You'll be able to experience it firsthand. Who in their right mind would pass up a chance to tour the inside of a plastic fabrication plant? Not that you need more motivation, but here's an extra teaser. Hard hat required. Let's just leave it at that. What are you waiting for? Call Gritty St. Cloud at their toll-free number 1-800-STC-VANS to book your tour. Mention this ad when booking and receive a free Busch Light on your first tour. The South St. Cloud tour is selling quickly, so be sure to reserve your spot today. That's 1-800-STC-VANS. It's the grease, it's the sweat, it's Gritty St. Cloud.
Wonderful having Gritty St. Cloud back, and
it's been too long.
I for one am really excited for that South St. Cloud tour. And
really,
they're probably
you can book it up. Yeah. The route's booking quickly.
I think they're gonna also, if they're gonna have a spot to where Bobby Gepfert, he's
thinking about that.
Yeah, that's.
I don't think that that was on their mind when they gave this ad read to me, but I did kind of have a back and forth and say, yeah, you remember the goalie? He used to have it on his goalie mask, and I think he was really intrigued by that. So
yeah,
it's good to have that time.
Rumor has it after he got kicked out of Providence for allegedly not citing his sources. Allegedly, the old story at least goes that as he was driving up and he saw Opportunity Drive on the side of the road, and as a sign, he thought that St. Cloud would be a good opportunity for him, and had that on his mask here at St. Cloud State, and became a legend in the goalie circles. So
yes, he did.
But
can we live some of that glory with this Gritty St. Cloud
Gritty
tour.
St. Cloud. Perfect. Yeah. Sounds great. All right. Next category. Here we go.
The Matt Hedican, Christy Yamaguchi, Defensive Player of the Year.
All right. Defensive Player of the Year. Our nominees were Dylan Anhorn, Clara Himlerova, and Dale Ross. And the Herbie goes to Dylan Anhorn.
Yay!
Congratulations, Dylan Anhorn. Also named a second team All of American. No.
American.
The barrel proof is getting to me. Second team All American defense as well. And more importantly, Herbie winner. Ended up crushing the fan vote as well with 82%. I think it was unanimous from all of us. Himmerova did an admirable job there, especially considering she went back and forth between positions. I think Grace Wolf probably would have had a good run for Dylan's money for me if she would have ended up staying healthy. Unfortunately, she got injured, but I don't think you could really. I don't know. I think Dylan Anhorn was kind of the easy vote, so it was just don't overthink it.
Yeah, it was. Dylan Anhorn now playing for the Manitoba Moose, the AHL, signing a deal with them, and so he's already played a game there in the AHL. So congrats on that. Yeah, I mean 33 points in 38 games. Captain, and of this beleaguered at times defensive core. Yeah, I mean it's easy to underrate him. At least I'm speaking personally, because we had these sky high expectations coming into the year. So it's difficult to properly contextualize his production this year, but especially considering the inconsistency of the rest of the unit for the men's defensive core. Anhorn clearly stood above that pack, and yeah, without him on the team, it's this team I don't think is close to pairwise territory at 17th or whatever it was at the end of the year. So I think it's a well-deserved award. As you mentioned, the other nominees have their merits, but it's like Hilmerova probably didn't play quite enough at D, and as you mentioned, Grace Wolf was a nomination that didn't happen because of her injury, and so Dale
Ross was solid.
Ross was solid. I mean, yeah.
So,
but I think Anhorn had the better
had
combination
that other level.
of yeah.
So exactly. All right. Next up.
The Jace Weslowski Goaltender of the Year, presented by Xbox.
Switching it up a little bit with the Halo music there. Thank you for that.
By the way, we got the Alan Parsons too. Are we going to get DMCA'd with these Sounders? I don't know if we mentioned that to Jason. Kind of using.
I don't think so. I think it's.
Let's just hope that Alan Parsons doesn't listen to this podcast.
Yeah,
because that might be problematic. But
I mean,
let's not draw more attention to it than we already have.
I think if it's under 6 seconds, I think it's
there was no time. I looked this up. There was no loophole of we can only use it for a certain amount of time. There's copyright law and fair use is a B word, as it turns out.
Well.
So.
We'll find out if we get DMCA'd and unmonetize this podcast. All our profits can go to Alan Parsons.
Our best bet is that nobody gives a darn about our podcast, which I think is a fair assumption. But if you got some more time on your hands there, Jason, plug in some royalty-free music on the background instead for next year.
I think we'll be fine.
You want to just risk it?
Yeah,
let's risk it.
Let's
do
risk
it.
What are they going to do?
Yeah, it's only court.
I'll have a separate credits page for all of this. So, goaltender of the year nominees were Sani Ahola, Jojo Chobak, and Isaac Posh. Sorry to Dominic Bassey, who didn't make the cut. Wonder why.
He plays for St. Lawrence now, so he's ineligible for the award.
And the winner Sonny Ahola wins for goaltender of the year. Congratulations to Ahola. I mean, like you said, like we talked about a little bit earlier, it was the Ahola show with the win against Ohio State. Some of the biggest wins she was in net for. Both goaltenders had a little trouble. I mean, I wouldn't even say a little bit trouble. I mean, we couldn't score for the women in the last how many games of the season, it felt like. And that definitely wasn't on the goaltender's part. I do think that Chobak did outplay Ahola towards the end of the season, but I kind of put that recency, aside and just kind of looked at the whole thing. And I thought Ahola did have a little bit of a better season top to bottom. So she got the edge just barely out of in front of Chobak for me.
This was probably the toughest call among the categories. I mean, there were some other difficult choices, but this one, I mean, it boils down to Chobak and Ahola, and it's so hard to. And this one was the one where Posh had a fair amount of the vote on the Twitter poll, correct?
Correct.
Which surprised me a little bit, but maybe it shouldn't, because you can come up with the two women's goalies kind of cancel each other out argument of it. Posh I don't think he played enough in the season, and it's not like his numbers were
great,
clearly stellar. And some of that was fudged by, the Denver weekend, which Denver will do that to goalies. But to me, it was between the two women's goalies, and it's very difficult to separate those two out. Ahola wins WCHA goalie of the year. But I actually voted for Chobak in this because they were so identical. This is what made it so difficult. But I'm just going old school metrics. Chobak actually had the edge in goals against and save percentage. She played more of the games. She played about 120 minutes more. So she got like two extra games. Exactly. 19-17. Because she's the only one that played both games of a weekend. The last series in the regular season at Duluth, or the second to last weekend in the regular season at Duluth. But you look at Ahola had 5 shutouts, Chobak's 4. Like there's little ones, you give the Ahola the Ohio State win, whereas Chobak didn't play particularly well. Her 2 worst games were against Ohio State. Chobak played better against Duluth than Ahola did. There's really no easy way to separate it, but the wins and losses, Ahola is better, but I feel like it's not really fair to goalie wins in hockey are even less useful than pitcher wins in baseball, because it's all based on what the offense in front of you, if they're going to get some offensive support. So I'm not going to really hold wins and losses really as that's not going to be my deciding metric. So I just ultimately went with Chobak and Ahola. I could have flipped a coin, honestly. But the fact that both the fans and you went with Ahola, there's no griping about that from my perspective, because these are both outstanding goalies, and there really isn't a great way to separate one or the other. I picked Chobak, but more than happy to present the Herbie to Sonny Ahola.
Congratulations. Fresh off of a bronze medal as well for the World Championships, as Finland takes 3rd. So congratulations to her, and also for the Herbie, which
Canada won that, correct?
Just don't talk about it. Canada won.
I don't want to poke the hornet's nest here.
It was.
I wanted to clarify that.
Yes,
I missed
Canada
the game.
won. It was. What was it? I think 5-5.
Oh, really? Barter.
Yeah, and then going into overtimes, U.S. takes a too many players on the ice penalty, and Canada scores on the 4-3 in overtime. So it's just wasn't a good. I wasn't happy about it, but Layla Edwards, who was I think actually the MVP of the tournament on the losing side, had a heck of a debut for the national team I think.
So is this the World Championships?
Correct.
Not like age group. Now, is the PWHL still going?
They're on hiatus for the World Championships.
So they did. So they did participate.
Mm-hmm.
So like Heisey and those players played.
Yep,
in this?
Heisey played that. So yep, they paused the season for the World Championships. So yep,
I think they do this every year.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Nope. I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I was out of the loop for that. Next year I shouldn't be. Remind me when these come around next year. Was that on like ESPN Plus, or was there a way to watch those?
Geez, I think it was on like NHL Network. I'm trying to think. Yeah, so I think it's buried. But
hey, you're telling me there was a championship game that was 5-5 in overtime?
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah, exactly. It was a back and forth affair too. So yeah, a little USA comes out on the losing side of it, but obviously, I mean, there were a lot of college stars. I mean, it felt like every other player was a Wisconsin player.
Sure.
I mean,
who did Finland lose to in the semis? Did they play Canada or did they play the US?
Finland, I believe, played Canada.
Did we have any? Because didn't Himlarova play for the Czech team?
Correct, and that's it was the Czech team that, Finland played the U.S. and the U.S. won 5-0.
Okay. Was she in net for that?
I don't know if she was in net for that, but Ahola was in net for the
bronze
bronze medal game. Okay. That won against Czechia.
Oh, it was.
Who was Himlarova. Yeah. Okay. Who Adolski also said on Twitter they are roommates. So
that wouldn't have been awkward then. Having
right.
a medal game,
right,
between those two players.
So exactly.
Any other Huskies take part in the World Championships other than those two?
Oh yeah. Let me see if
You've got me intrigued.
Yeah, Klug, who was a former St. Cloud State player, plays for Germany.
Okay.
And there was one. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Svenja Voigt is on the current team. She's from Germany. It's possible that I'm just looking at the other international players.
Yeah, I don't think.
I feel like I would have heard if an American or a Canadian would have made the team.
No, I don't think any American or Canadian made it.
Well, again, I have retroactive FOMO. You're mentioning this, so next year I got to be more in the loop. But again,
Sophiana Sunderland.
Oh, okay.
And then Jenna Nyland, who is a former player.
Oh yeah, she was there. I think she graduated this last year.
Yep. So, and then Surrey.
So Sunderland was on the Finnish team as well.
Yes, correct.
And Nyland.
Yep, Finnish.
She also Finnish. Okay.
Yep.
Again, it's that Finland to St. Cloud pipeline works both for the men and the women.
Exactly.
So good to see that continue.
And I am fairly sure another player, Siri Urola. Now I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but she's on the Finnish team. She's going to be in St. Cloud State next year. She's a recent commit.
Next year, as in this coming season,
or this coming season, I guess. Yes.
No, she's not going to take Delmonico's spot, is she?
She better not. An Olympian coming for Delmonico's crown? I don't think so.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, but yeah, she was. She played for the Finland's. Or she played for Finland as well. So, yeah. So we had a couple of Huskies kind of littered all over, and I'll probably think of one more because I think there was one more, but now I can't remember. But anyway, Ahola wins both World Championship bronze and a Herbie. So congratulations. So
indeed.
All right. And we didn't have a vote for this one, but we teased it a couple of weeks ago. So we'll go ahead and just get this one taken care of.
It's the Lowell Sun Sports Memorial Foot in Mouth Award.
Lowell Sun Sports Foot and Mouth Award this year goes to none other than Chris Mayotte, coach of the Colorado College Tigers, who I believe said the math ain't mathin' when it comes to why his Colorado College Tigers team was not in the NCAA tournament. Classic pairwise misconstruction, I guess you could say.
Over 6 glorious minutes of interview, almost like unchecked.
I mean, by that time he's like literally gnawing on his foot in his mouth. Like it's just keep going with it. It's rather impressive.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of officially christening this as a Herbie. We jumped the gun. We didn't plan anything. It's not like we chart stuff out, but it'll be a Herbie from here on out, and it might be one where we don't have like nominees.
I kind of like it
fun
being like a lifetime achievement award type. Like it's just kind of a God, who's gonna win it this year? No nominees, and just kind of I don't know. I kind of like having
that's the beauty. That's the beauty of this, is because we know someone will step up. If it needs to be an obscure Twitter account, so be it.
So be it.
If it's someone with an actual stake in the sport professionally, that's really what we're looking for.
Is it going to be some weird columnist from middle Hockey East team? Who knows? Like
last year, I don't know if we want to retroactively give one. Last year, that had to have been the UConn AD.
Yep.
For them removing Stonehill. From the pairwise. Again, it's just great. It's just awesome.
Bowling Green Twitter account. I think the COVID year, or not the COVID year, but the 21, the year after, when they didn't have the pairwise, tweeting out their resume. I think that was kind of an interesting one. That's still a running gag on Twitter. So people will have that font NCAA tournament resume.
Yeah, Arizona State did that this year, and they were in the running briefly, but someone typically steps up, and we're happy to honor such an individual on a yearly basis from now on.
Exactly. So congratulations to Chris Mayotte. I'll put it in the
CC, mail. They missed the tournament this year, but they're getting some hardware.
Anyway. Like, which would you rather have? I mean, honestly, there can only be one national title champion, and sure, it might be your rival and your gold pan rival, but there's only one Herbie for the Lowell Sun Sports Memorial Foot in Mouth Award.
Would you rather be in the blockbuster movie that everybody saw, but wasn't very good, or would you rather win the Oscar for the movie that nobody saw, but
small independent
made $27 at the box office, but you won an Oscar for that? This is the equivalent of that.
Yep, exactly. So, the last but not least, we have the granddaddy of them all.
Finger steps up his bat. He hit Oscar Moeller. And now Armstrong has grabbed Jeff Finger.
The Jeff Finger Memorial, Most Valuable Player.
God, these have all been A+.
Again, where did he get that? I really want to know where that clip came from.
It's just
give me the context to that.
I got nothing.
I bet he scoured YouTube and stumbled upon some Jeff
Finger highlights.
YouTube's been around for a while. I just wonder who was the other name. Can I ask you to play that again?
I mean, I'm not going to ever deny playing this sounder now. I will say that.
Well, he mentions another name. Oscar, what is he? Molmer? I'm trying to find what team that this would have, like what game this would have been from. I can't find anything on the fly here. Let me know, Jason, Brian, where you found that, because I am really intrigued now. But that is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. It's again just 10 out of 10. No notes, just absolutely perfect. So most valuable player, the Jeff Finger Memorial. I don't know why it's Memorial. I love it. I don't know why, but it is. Nominees: Dylan Anhorn, Klara Himlarova, VT Mietinen, and Kyler Kupka. And the Herbie goes to Dylan Anhorn. So congratulations, Dylan Anhorn, for being a 2-time Herbie recipient. And apologies to Klara Himlarova for being the Gang of New York of this Herbie season, going on with no hardware. But Anhorn, I think for me, it was always just kind of the classic. You take Anhorn off this team, off this defense, kind of what happens, and everything, in my opinion, just kind of falls apart. Yeah, he might not have had, a top 10 Hobie Baker type season, but I think a lot of other things kind of went into that. But overall, I think a very good player, very good pickup, had a really strong 2 years here with St. Cloud State, and we wish him the best as he goes on, pursues his pro career, and for someone with Anhorn in his last name and his lineage, it was nice to see that that name on the back of the jersey play here for St. Cloud State. So I think it was the fans kind of spoke to that as well. 51% voted for Dylan Anhorn. So congratulations for being the for being the winner.
Yeah, agreed that the thought of taking any of these nominees off the team, what the effect that would be, I think that's a good gauge barometer of MVP. Biggest effect of removing them from the team would be. And yeah, I think we mentioned the defensive struggles this year, Anhorn at least provided an above average presence throughout the season that would have really hurt the team had he not been there. So I think that was, it was a tough decision. And again, talking about this like last week, just it's tough to come up with surefire winners for these categories when we're dealing with two basically 500 teams. There's nothing that really jumps off the page, but certainly I think Anhorn did the job this year to earn the MVP award, and also cumulatively too. We can always go back and just think of what would have been had he not gotten injured last year. Not only how that season ended up ending for the Huskies, but then, that injury may have even affected his play this year too. Certainly he did not reach the heights that he did in his half season last year in this full season. And that could have been affected by that injury. So happy to give him the award. And I was also thinking about this because we did one of the off-season shows last year. We did the all-time Husky draft.
We did.
Go Huskies Woo and Eric Zamora, yourself and me. I took Anhorn as I think the final pick in the draft. It was my final pick at least. I don't know if it was the final pick, which was kind of like seen as kind of a reach, but kind of a cool pick too. Like if you were going to do the draft again, I'm not sure if I would take him, but I don't think it's a bad choice either. I'm just not sure. Like with the hype that he had after last year. And again, we're kind of extrapolating what would have happened if he hadn't gotten hurt. I don't know if this season changed your perception. I don't know if you would have taken him in the draft last year if you had the opportunity. and if you still would now that we have the year and a half of experience with him rather than just the half year. But again, he's definitely a good selection here for MVP, but trying to contextualize and place him among kind of the all-time greats of Huskies, did this season hurt or help that sort of reputation? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it hurt his reputation or help. I do think that I don't think I would have taken him. I probably would have gone more, I geared a little bit older anyway towards a lot of my players. When it comes, I just kind of looked at stat lines, probably a little bit to my detriment when it comes to the fan voting. But, as far as, he didn't live up to the expectations that we set for him. And that's probably unfair looking back, for us to put on that he's going to be Hobie top 10. Right. As we did. So it's, I don't think I would have taken him in the all-time Huskies draft, but I wouldn't shun anybody for picking him. It's just, a year and a half is just feels a little bit too short when it comes to like an all-time talk. But it was, it was a heck of a run for him in his time here, and I was happy that he was able to don the Cardinal in black. And I think it'll be interesting to see kind of where he ends up and how his career kind of progresses. But I kind of makes me think AHL is probably going to be the place for him for a little bit.
Think he gets a sniff at the NHL?
I don't think so. I mean, he might get in for
cup of coffee.
A cup of coffee at the end of the year on a draft lottery team. But
I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility. He's got to improve, and I think he can. There's put a pin in that, because I'd like to see how he projects. Like, there are some guys that surprised me. Like, it took a while for Charlie Lindgren to finally get basically been their starter for Washington this year. Mm-hmm. It took him a while to get to that point in his career, almost 10 years, until he gets like a full shot. He's been serviceable backup, but takes him a while. Goalies are a little different, I know, but
gotta shut up.
Guys like Asamont, like, who would have thought Asamont was going to develop into the player that he is? Oh
man, we didn't talk about all that brouhaha.
Saw that some
Asamont levels Nick Jensen and then has to fight Nick Dowd. So Husky on Husky crime there going on.
Did Dowd and Asamont play together?
No. I checked because I was like, ooh, they might have overlap, but Dowd
you'd have ended in 14.
Asamont started in 15.
So it would have been one season even between them.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
think you're right. He would have started 15-16, I think, is Asamont's first year.
Yep, that's right.
So there would have been a year between them. But Dowd and Jensen play together, clearly.
Correct, yep.
Okay. But yeah, wouldn't like Asamont's kind of gotten a role as like a grinder type, like not the kind of player he was with St. Cloud. And so it's I could definitely see Aaron probably not being like an offensive defenseman if he does make the highest level, but being a serviceable defenseman, I don't think is out of the realm possibility. We'll see it. I think I found it with Jeff Finger.
Oh yeah,
because there was a guy named Oscar Moeller for the Kings. So this would have been the NHL.
Okay.
And it was a dirty hit or a hard hit, let's say, because Jeff Finger doesn't lay dirty hits.
No, not at all. He's
never
a
did.
Hockey player. He just played
when he would have been at Toronto, or this would have been his first year with the Maple Leafs. And he laid a big hit into this Moeller, and then this Derek Armstrong was the Kings captain. That Armstrong is who they also mentioned in that clip.
Oh, okay.
And then Armstrong kind of took exception because Moeller's not much of a fighter, and I think Armstrong and Finger went at it. And so I think I'm pretty sure, unless there was another brouhaha with Jeff Finger cheap shotting a guy named Oscar,
not a cheap shot.
I think I found it out.
Okay.
I've isolated the origin of that. And
Gotcha.
how fitting. It's the Herbies. It's kind of our knockoff of the Oscars. And we've got the Jeff Finger knocking out
Oscar. So there we go. Perfect. So congratulations to everyone. This concludes the second annual Herbie Awards, and congratulations to all the winners. It was just big cheering here going on. So congratulations. Wow, that clip is like 30 some seconds long, so I'll just end it right there. You get the point.
And
so
awards ceremony wouldn't be complete without an in memoriam section.
Oh, yeah.
And so take a moment of silence for 2 ho-hum 500 teams that didn't make the big dance this year. Moment of silence for that. So
that's good.
And about dozer for the in memoriam section. We are sad to see it go, but we're happy
I'll
try
to get some Sarah McLachlan cleared so we could use that for
pretty good
for fair use. So
yeah, well, you got to check that out. Yeah, it's a Sarah McLachlan-esque sound clip, not the real thing, but
the real thing. I could talk to her people. Maybe they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I love the Herbies."
You could.
I love it. So, questions. A couple of questions. One, Dan Jacobson, does a college hockey tournament in Palm Springs interest you? It would interest me a lot more if I was the Husky team in it, but no, Michigan Tech is the Husky team in the Cactus City tournament. No, what was it called again?
Yeah, it has cactus in it, and I realize that that part of California is a little bit more desert, but come on, like Arizona's got they have the they're cornering their market in cactus related marketing. For California to steal that thunder, I think is a little undeserved, let's say. But it must be the teams that are interested in these warm weather winter time in mid-season tournaments must be a lot of the same kind of teams, because Lowell and Omaha are in this thing, which both were in the Arizona State tournament this last year. Michigan Tech, as you mentioned, they being the Huskies that are in this one. They were in the Arizona State tournament 2 years ago. They won it that year. Who is the other team? I think it was an ECAC team, I think.
Holy Cross.
Oh, so not an ECAC team, but Holy Cross, which I don't think has ever played in Arizona or the desert. So 3 out of the 4, though, have some experience in playing in a similar environment. So there was an Arizona State and Harvard played some games out in Irvine, California 5 years ago or so, but they haven't been back to California since. I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, like maybe they can see if this draws decent, put a regional there.
Yeah,
that's so bad of an idea to spend some time in Palm Springs in late March.
I wouldn't hate it.
And this it's at the Coachella Valley AHL facility. Which is, I think, the Seattle affiliate, AHL affiliate. So it's more inland California. It's maybe an hour drive from LA. Maybe depending on traffic, it's more like 2 hours. I don't know. But
I've seen Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. It's only 4 hours from the beach.
Yeah, it's not exactly on the
That
coast,
is a niche reference that only my wife will understand.
Well, she listens, so she'll get it. That means
she listens in the
it.
background. I don't know if she really listens. she'll like have it.
Come on, Teresa,
at work.
Pay attention. Don't be
work.
listening. Take it off 1.5 speed.
We should finish Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Is actually the whole end of that story.
Okay,
because that was a funny show. That was really, really smart too. Really good. Really
never saw it.
Are you a fan of musicals? It's a musical show.
You gotta take them or leave them. Really? I thought it was. I didn't have that as the picture of it.
Yep.
So it's just like Fiddler on the Roof.
Yeah, very much so.
Tradition.
Very much so. except a little different, but
a little bit. Okay.
Yep.
So I don't, seeing that these 4 specific teams are involved, like I don't know how far of a drive it would be for me to Palm Springs. It wouldn't be outrageous, but don't think that I'll be taking this in. But again, intrigued to see what the turnout's like, because I would be opposed to having more events take place there in the future. So yeah, I'm for kind of new tournaments, new matchups, non-conference matchups. We saw that the Hall of Fame game next year, it's going to be North Dakota versus Providence. 2 years from now, it'll be Denver hosting the Gophers, and they're going to put that at Ball Arena.
Yep.
In Denver, which we're again going away from that for either icebreakers. Remember that the X used to do the icebreaker a couple of times, but seeing as the attendance woes have been bad in recent years for neutral site events like that, we've been going away from that. But I remember Denver, and I think it was Denver and CC did a regular season game there, and it was 5-figure attendance, which very impressive for college hockey standards. So yeah, with the Gophers there, you could figure that would be a decent draw. So
especially, I don't think combined the 2 arenas sit 5 or 10,000.
Between CC and Denver?
Yeah, between Magnus and Robson.
And Magnus is maybe 6,500, and Robson's only like 3,500.
Yeah.
They're fairly small, so.
But I mean, marquee event, and I understand all that.
And that is, gold pants, so there is some local draw to that the Gophers don't bring to that. Like Gophers and Denver haven't played since the WCHA days. But still, they're a name, brand, national recognized program. You think that'd be a pretty decent idea for that. So I like to see those kind of non-conference one-off kind of things. I like to hear about those kind of events. And yeah, I'm thumbs up about a Palm Springs tournament. I bet the fan bases of those programs are excited as well.
I do follow some Michigan Tech fans who are already looking for tickets. So
yeah,
so that'll be good.
That's this coming season.
Correct.
Okay.
I think the Gophers will schedule us again anytime in the next few years. I think we might be on the docket for an exhibition game this next year. I think Brett Larson said something about that in the coaches show. As far as anytime soon, when it comes to regular season non-conference matchups, probably not until at least the contract with Minnesota Duluth runs out for Minnesota Duluth and the Gophers, which I think goes on for another 2 years.
Well, we knew it the last time they played them, which was the early 2023, like January of 2023. And at that time, it had come out that they were not going to be on their schedule for the next 2 years, regular season schedule. But that Larson was trying to get them back on that. He cited that as the reason that they got Michigan on the schedule instead.
Yeah,
for this past season that just ended and the season that's coming up.
The season's coming.
So certainly they're not going to be on the schedule for a regular season game. Now, obviously that exhibition game is a possibility. They've been doing those with Bemidji the last 2 years, each getting a home game. But again, exhibition, I mean, I'll take it. I bet that's still going to sell decently in St. Cloud if they play it in St. Cloud. Fans will still show up even for an exhibition game. But if it's got the Gophers involved, it'll sell. So from that perspective, go for it. But from someone that's watching from home, several states away, it's going to lose a little bit of its luster if it's not something that counts in the standings.
Matters. Yeah.
But better than nothing. But yeah, that's part of why I'm intrigued to see the full schedule come up, because we think we've got Ann Arbor this coming season. We think we've got BC. But aside from that, I don't know. I would imagine there's going to be some of the usual suspects, St. Thomas, Mankato, Bemidji, probably a couple of those at least. I don't think it's going to be super creative in terms of new.
I would imagine we'd get
opponents.
Augustana on the schedule.
Yeah,
too.
I'd like to see them. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see them. But I don't know. And we have speculation. We've got some hints, but we just don't have anything set in stone, or at least something in paper form that I can look at and start planning trips for the ones that are especially intriguing. So excited to see that come out. But yeah, I wouldn't get your hopes up for a regular season Gopher game for at least another year.
Last one might be too late. Oh, no, probably wasn't supposed to say that part. Any word on any transfer portal pickups on the women's side? The only one that I saw for the St. Cloud State for the women's side, and I don't know how to pronounce the first name, Bria Parent.
I think, Bria or Brea.
Brea.
I think the J is silent, I think.
She played a little bit during the COVID year for Minnesota Duluth, and then the last 3 seasons she's been at St. Thomas. So she'll be transferring here to St. Cloud State. Had 8 points, 36 games 2 years ago. This last season, 11 points in 37 games, 4 goals, 3 goals each team. So that's kind of the pickup that Adolski has here for this. So far that we have seen. Kenzie Hope, Jaden Britt, and Devin Millwater are still in the portal and still have not found a landing spot as we know of. So that's kind of the update for the portal for the women's side.
Keeping an eye on that, and hopefully by the next show, we'll have some movement there. We know JoJo's coming back.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Do we know about Ahola?
Don't know about Ahola yet. Avery Myers is a yes as well.
And yes, mentioning Gentry earlier in the show too. Hopefully by the next show we'll have some idea
on some
cemented
kind of roster,
into place, like at least those players, what their plans are. Certainly having to replace them if they don't come back would be a big challenge, and that might dictate further activity in the portal. But there's talent to be had there, and interested to see how it shakes out. Recent portal entrants, couple 30-point players from the Nuha, had some success with Farrell coming over from Franklin Pierce this last season. I wouldn't be surprised if those are on the radar of the coaching staff. But again, you can't really make moves certain until you know who's coming back and who's not. That might be knowledge to the coaching staff already, but for us rubes, we don't know. And so hopefully in the next month we'll know, and then we can kind of analyze what's left, and then what's going forward, what the plan should be to either replace or rebuild or build around whatever we've got returning. So excited to see that kind of come into shape as well.
Very much so. Well, that about does her this episode. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening throughout the season. It means a lot that our little podcast has found your ears, and you're able to take a couple hours a week out of your time to listen to us kind of just chill and talk about college hockey and Huskies hockey in particular. Podcast will be a little bit sporadic, but we'll keep you updated month to month unless anything breaking happens. We'll have an emergency session. Maybe have a couple of guests on throughout. I don't know. We'll kind of see how it goes. But we do want to thank everybody for listening. Obviously, thank you to our sponsors for this week and sponsoring the Herbies and their ongoing support of the Huskies Hockey Podcast.
Absolutely.
So, and until next time. Go Huskies. Woo! Woo!